Okay, let's roll.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Robin Bettis, and I'm the second vice president for Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter. And on behalf of our chapter, I would like to welcome you to part two of the Generational Wealth series. We will now turn the program over to the chair, Sarah Daphne Flintroy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our second phase of our Generational Wealth series. Last night, we had a very informative session from Mrs. Sonia Wilson from the Small Business Development Center housed on Southern University's campus. We're very fortunate to have this partnership with them and look forward to a continuation of helpful information with informative solutions for creating generational wealth for our community. Please know, generational wealth is one of those things that we truly do need to pay attention to in the African American community, as well as financial literacy. It is very important because the financial legacy is one of the most important things that we can leave for our children and for families. Please know that some of the main ways in doing this is through real estate, land ownership, but more importantly, entrepreneurial relations and development. So tonight, thank you for joining us as we turn it over to Ms. Sonia Wilson. Ms. Wilson is a business consultant for the Louisiana Small Business Development Center at Southern, as I stated. She is responsible for providing client consultation to startup and existing businesses, as well as she does daily management for programmatic reports and projects with these businesses. This is also inclusive of providing consultation services with the startups, the strategic planning, business development, financial evaluation, marketing, and a variety of concentrated business components. Her area of expertise are also inclusive of developing and writing a business plan, facilitation and training, program development, developing partnerships, and grant writing. Furthermore, Ms. Wilson has received multiple awards pertaining to the work with small businesses and recognition awards for exceptional performance in providing training and capturing client capitalization. She has assisted over 500 clients and has captured a cumulative total of over 20 million in client capital infusion. In 2020, the Louisiana Small Development Center at Southern University received the Small Business Development Center Service and Excellence and Innovation Center Award presented by the United States Small Business Administration. With over 20 years of experience in working with small businesses in the private and public sector, Ms. Wilson is also the founder of the Wilson Training and Consultation Services, LLC. She is an example of a successful entrepreneur. She earned her master's degree in administration and supervision from Southern University, also a master's in social science with a concentration in political science at Southern, and her bachelor's degree in political science at Southern University. She is a certified facilitator with Edward Lowe Foundation Peer Perspectives and Kaufman Fast Track Program. Thank you, Mrs. Wilson, for being with us. And ladies and gents, you're in for a treat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daphne. I appreciate that warm welcome and introduction. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank the Baton Rouge Sigma chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for allowing Louisiana Small Business Development Center at Southern University to share information for small business and projected small business owners. We appreciate the opportunity. And again, we hope to provide assistance to you all as well as the surrounding communities. I will give a recap of some of the information that was discussed last night. We will go over that information throughout the the course of this evening. But first, primarily this evening session is primarily to talk about PPP, which is the Payroll Protection Program, which is a very talked about service that's being offered as a result of how businesses, small businesses were impacted as a result of COVID-19. We have Larry Dentz Jr. He is a consultant. He's actually a lender that works with Hope Credit. He's going to talk to you about some of the services that they offer as well. They are one of our partners. We have a very successful collaborative initiative and effort that we have embarked upon. And we are doing some great things for small business owners. So we just want to hear from Larry, maybe about 15 minutes or so. And he's been gracious enough to spare a few moments of his time this evening to talk about some of the programs and resources that they offer. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Larry, and he's going to talk about some of the services that Hope has to offer. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time this evening.
You're welcome, Sonia. Good evening, ladies. Thank you all for allowing me to have this opportunity just to discuss some information with you all. I won't keep you long. I won't try to bore you, but I'll just give you some information that could possibly help you. Or if you all have any questions, feel free to ask me. If I don't know, I'll find somebody who does, because I don't know everything. But again, like Sonia said, I'm Larry Dentz Jr. with Hope Federal Credit Union, based out of Jackson, Mississippi. We are a full service credit union. I'm not sure where everyone is located, if it's all in Baton Rouge, but we don't have a actual physical building here in Baton Rouge, but that's where I'm located here. I'm a commercial loan officer. I've been servicing businesses for probably 10 or more years, been in banking for over 15 years. And with Hope, what makes us special, just to, I guess, drive it down to you guys, is that we do a lot in the community. We're in 5 states. We are located in areas where we're needed. We're located where the Black and brown people are who don't have access to financial services. We try to create a lot of programs that help those individuals be able to serve their communities in their business capacity, because they may not be able to go to certain banks or credit unions or community banks in that area, or they may not even have anything in their area. So what we focus on is just helping these entrepreneurs, business owners be successful.
You're muted, Mr. Lair.
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Not sure where I stopped it, but I'll start just by saying, what we do at Hope. Our goal is to service not only business owners, but we serve individuals. Like I said, I don't know if you guys heard me, we're located in the Black and brown communities, and that's what we look forward to do. That's our mission as a company. We're able to do things that traditional banks and community banks can't do. The reason being is because we are a credit union and we are a community development financial institution. Some of you may have heard about CDFIs. So we're that. That's what a community financial development institution is. So we're a credit union and a CDFI. So we're able to leverage different funds that may come from private donations, that may come from different municipalities, or it can come from anywhere. We can get grants that we can service those loans to individuals who are in different fields. We do a lot in the healthcare industry. We do a lot with charter schools. We do a lot with low-income housing. We do a lot with restaurants. We deal with the fields that a lot of places don't want to mess with. We're able to help individuals who may not have the best credit score. They may have had some issues in the past where it just was something they couldn't handle and it just messed them up, but they're getting back on track. We can work with those individuals. Sometimes we can get them approved just depending on how bad the situation is, or, how they can show us, prove to us that they're able to handle whatever they're looking to get. So at Hope, our goal is really just to see more successful entrepreneurs and not always have these roadblocks for individuals, because the main thing we hear is that there's no place where we can go and get funding to get our business going. So me at Hope and working with Hope are able to try to stop that narrative. We're able to go into certain situations to be able to say, hey, there is somewhere you can go and get access to capital. You may not be able to get access to capital that day. You may need some work, but we are willing to work with them, give them information that can help them to be able to get the capital that they need to help them have a successful business. And not only do we set them up to be successful, we continue to monitor them. We continue to follow up with them. We just try to do the right things to help that individual become successful, because we know a lot of businesses fail quickly. You can give a lot of businesses money, and within a year or two or earlier than that, they can just fall down and we don't know what happened to them. So that's just a short synopsis of what I do at Hope. I don't like to bore people with just a lot of different facts, because I know everybody's situation is unique. But if you ladies have any questions you would like to ask me, or if you think of something later, I'm pretty sure Ms. Sonia can give you all my contact information, and I'm always open to help in any capacity that I can. Thank you, guys.
Larry, if you can you just briefly, and I'm going to elaborate on that later. I'm going to actually pull up SBA's website and just kind of go over a few pieces of information regarding PPP. You talk about where Hope stands in regards to PPP and funding opportunities for small businesses. I know that each lending institution specialize in different packages. You've already stated that you all work with a lot of schools, the food industry or what have you. Different lending institutions have different appetites for industries, as we already know. But if you can just kind of talk about where Hope stands on PPP, I think that'd be great as well.
Well, we stand on with PPP. Our first goal is to help out the minority business owners, because we know that they're not getting the help that they need when they go out to a bigger institution or an institution where they just feel like, hey, we're not taking any more applications. We're only working with our current clients. We're working with everybody with PPP. We're doing our best to get as many PPP applications processed as possible. We're working on the weekends. That's why I felt that it was important just to be on this call for a few minutes, because I told Ms. Sonia I was actually out of town and just got back, and I was like, if I get back in time, I'll get on the call, because I know it's things like this and opportunities just to speak to individuals. If I can just reach one person, I've done my job. But I knew it was important to be on this call. But to get back to the PPP, if you have questions about it, feel free to ask those questions, but you need to apply if you need the help. It's there for you. I mean, it's difficult not to be approved for. You just have to not qualify in certain areas, but it's real simple to do. Of course, it's gathering information. And what we see while we work so closely with the minority-owned businesses is that we notice they just don't have certain things in place. They don't have the tax returns that they can get to. They don't have their financial statements they can get to. I mean, it might even come to bank statements where they may have to go to the bank because they're not using electronic apps or anything electronically to get their business, up to speed. So we do a lot of hand holding. We have to get others to help us with the hand holding, because it's only so many of us at a small credit union, because we're not a gigantic credit union, but we do have a nice size credit union. But we're trying to help any and everybody. You don't have to bank with us. We would love for you to bank with us, but we help anybody who needs to apply for the PPP loan in the program. And we're pretty sure changes will be coming daily, weekly. I know we just had some changes last week, actually with earlier this week. So it's a lot as far as us dealing with it. But when it comes to you guys, the individuals, the business owners who need help in the program, I would definitely say look into it. If you haven't, apply for it. We'll love to have you and help you get through it and help you get approved for some of this money, because we know a lot of businesses out there need it. They just haven't applied for it yet for whatever reason, may not have clarification. But again, we're here to help you to be able to strive in that part and be able to have access to this money so you can be able to continue to build your business.
And the deadline
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go
Mr.
ahead.
Dents, in reference to what you're saying about the PPP loans and what's going on, We are speaking of the current PPP loans that are out there now. And can you speak, or do you know anything or any information that may be different in terms of the new PPP loans that are coming out? And do you know if the new $1.9 trillion package that President Biden is getting ready to send out, hopefully with the passage from the Senate, if that is going to afford, let's just say, minority businesses and even more or wider funding source?
I know nothing about that now. This is what happens. The information comes from the SBA or comes from the president. It goes out on this big blast. And what a lot of people don't understand is when this information is put out, we find out when you guys find out.
Okay.
So it may be put out, it's no instructions on where to go from there. So
Okay.
It's just, in my point of view, it's just a way to make people feel good, let them know something's coming, but then they don't get that it's questions for us. People start asking, hey, well, what about this? What about this? We don't know yet because they haven't really made any rules or how things are going to go from the changes that they're making. So we basically play it by ear, and the program is constantly changing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And of course, Larry, as with the first round of PPP, I think a couple of things that I noticed with working with some of our clients is that, as you've mentioned, some of the paperwork wasn't in order. For example, they didn't have a ledger or could demonstrate where they were actually paying employees. They didn't have a record of that. Some were paying employees cash. Some didn't file tax returns.
Right.
You know, they had to be able to demonstrate that there was at least a 25%, that they were affected at least by the pandemic and their sales decreased or revenue decreased by 25% as a result of the pandemic. Right. Those are just some examples of how a lot of business owners were not able to tap into the first round.
Yes, and it's still the case now. It's just the fact that, again, these small business owners, a lot of minority business owners just don't have, I guess, the capacity to be able to have these things done. I believe sometimes they think it's just expensive to do, which I believe there are ways you can get around doing certain things, like having a bookkeeper or someone to help you with your taxes, or just, you know, some way you can actually gradually get into the point where you do have a business CPA or something like that. But the staples of having your tax returns done, even knowing, like with the program, if you just can pull up an Excel spreadsheet on profit and loss and plug in your numbers, you can use things like that. It's I guess to me, because I've been doing it so long, it's so simple. And when I first started dealing with business owners, I thought they knew everything, but business owners don't. They just know what they do really well. But when it comes to actually running a business and not letting the business run them, that's where everything just goes crazy. And with the PPP, they submit a half application. I send them an email back and say, hey, I'm missing this, this, and that. And they're like, hey, I don't have this. I didn't do my taxes this year because I had this happen. And or like you said, Ms. Sonia, I do cash, so I didn't show it on my taxes. And it gets to a point where it's like, I can't help you. And that's with PPP or just banking in general, that when you get to that point where you're just not doing the simple things and doing those simple things over and over and over, you kind of hurt yourself in the foot when you do need help, or when you are looking for funding to expand your business. You do hear individuals say, well, this bank doesn't want to help me, when it actually comes down to the individual not doing the little steps in the beginning to actually help themselves move forward. But that has been a big issue with the PPP, just not having simple things put together like your tax returns or finding someone to help you with financial statements. Because really that's all you need. You fill out an application, you have a copy of your ID. If you're a first round business owner, depending what type of business you have, you submit your 2019 or 2020 tax return. If you paid employees and you will also submit the same year's 941 forms for each quarter. And if you're a second draw, it's basically the same thing. You submit your tax returns, your 941, and you just submit your decrease. You show where your business, the profit decreased from 2019 to 2020. You just select a quarter. You can use, some people can use a Schedule C if they file a Schedule C for both years and use that for a 25% decrease, or they just show a profit and loss from 2019 and 2020 for a certain quarter. And you could have had an up year, but in one quarter, it was down 25% from the, say, third quarter in 2019. You went down 25% in 2020, you still qualify for the program. Even though you may have made more money in 2020, you still will qualify based on the information that's requested. So some people may not apply just because of that reason, but it's a lot of things that you can try to, everybody's situation is different, I should say.
Okay. Are there any questions for Larry while we have him? I know he's a little pressed for time this evening, and we appreciate him taking the time to join us. Are there any other questions or anything that we can address? We're going to go through SBA's website momentarily, but while we have Larry on the line, if you have any questions.
Okay, I'm practice though, so I won't walk past and get them back.
Okay.
So, Mr. Dents,
Yes.
do you all have maybe a form or a fact sheet or a tip sheet so that when the businesses come to you, just like the things you guys are sharing, do you have something where you can say to them, look, this is basically what you need. These are the kinds of things that we're going to need from you in terms of documentation. These are other things that you will need to be able to do. Do you all have like a packet or, like I said, or a fact sheet, anything like that, that you can provide to businesses? Then right then and there, they can check off or highlight what they have, what they don't have, which then gives you a full perspective of basically probably where you need to go and what you need to do in order to help them, or either to say to them, hey, I can help you, or hey, look, I want to help you, but until we get the following items, then we would be able to assist you.
No, we don't have a particular physical sheet or anything we send out in the beginning because we're just so overwhelmed. But when you go to our website, it'll tell you what you need, all the information that's needed. And again, once the application is in our system, we're going to check it. And then that's when I'll send the email saying, hey, I'm still missing this, send this as soon as possible. So yeah, everything basically is on the website, what is needed. But if something has just happened to get looked over, we'll reach out and say, hey, send this to us so we can go ahead and get the application in.
Can you give our listeners probably like a percentage of your, I'll just say your success rate in terms of those businesses that come to you guys and work with you overall? Could you just kind of give us a broad percentage of, like, hey, we're able to help 80% of the people that come to us?
I would say it's probably 80 or really, it's a great percentage. Like it's great. The only way you will not qualify is if you made zero, or if you had zero or negative, then you wouldn't qualify. If you're a second time on borrower, that means you received funding the first time. But if you are a first time borrower, it's different parameters for that. So you're probably fine on that because we can use your 2020 taxes. But the only time I've had to decline any was, again, they had a negative net profit. They were fraudulent, or I think that's about it, really. Because it's up there as far as, I don't have an actual number, but I would say that's the only reason I've had any decline. I'm just trying to think of any that would get declined of anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's something else, but when I can think of the applications that I've helped, that was the only reasons. So it's very high. It's very likely that you get approved for this.
Great.
Like I said, it's not many reasons you should be declined. If you have your paperwork and you meet the regular documents that's needed as far as the SBA is concerned, that's it.
Great
Very high.
information.
And Larry, the business would have to have been in existence prior to, is it January of 2020?
It's February 15th.
February 15th, 2020.
Yes. February 5th. As long as you was in business before or on that date, you're good.
Any other questions for Larry? Okay, Larry, I don't think there are any, I'm not sure if, Daphne, did you have anything to add? I wasn't sure.
No, thank you very much for the information. Thank you for reaching out. Hopefully, if we have any listeners out there that are in need or want to apply for the loan, I know that Ms. Sonia will give them your contact information. So it's very good. I think the facts that you presented, but more importantly, the mission of your company wanting to provide services to people of color, because
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is one of the things that we need in terms of helping us to prepare for financial wisdom and generational wealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, ladies. You have a great day.
Thank you. Same to you.
We do have one question, it seems. Are 2020 taxes required to be filed to get access to the second round of funding?
No, if you would have to, they don't have to be filed, just completed. If you are a 1040 Schedule C, you can just submit to us your Schedule C filled out. But in all other tax returns, yes, they do not have to be filed. You just want them to be correct as possible, and we can use those because we know a lot of people haven't filed their 2020 tax return.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Larry. If there are any other questions, I'll follow up with you, or I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. I'm pretty up to speed in terms of what's going on with PPP, but if there's anything else, or if anyone needs to contact you, I'll let the chapter know, Baton Rouge Sigma chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated know how to get in touch with you as well in case they have any follow-up questions.
Yes, ma'am. Not a problem. You have a great day.
Thank you so much, Larry. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a good evening. So as you all can see, that's just one of many lenders, financial institutions that's offering, that's actually a qualified lender of PPP. So we have a lot. If you're banking with someone in particular, with an entity in particular, contact your lending institution and inquire if they are providers. If you're banking with an institution and they are not a PPP provider, if you need to reach out to the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, we can assist you with providing a list of lenders that are servicing PPP. Also, you can log on to SBA's website and you can actually do a search to see those lending institutions that are participating in PPP within or around your area. So right now, since we're on the subject of PPP, I would like to go to SBA's website so we can just kind of look over a few things and, you can just kind of see for yourself some of the specifics in terms of what they're looking for, and just to kind of expound on what Larry was talking about. So I'm just going to share my screen and go to SBA's website. Okay, so it's www.sba.gov. I already took the liberty of having it pulled up just to kind of save time. But this is the front page. This is what you'll see. And what you'll do is you'll click on Coronavirus COVID-19 Small Business Guidance and Loan Resources. Just click on the Learn More tab. Okay, so this is the screen that will populate when you click on the Learn More tab. And I'm just scrolling down and you'll see coronavirus relief options. Okay, with the coronavirus relief options, you'll see where you can find a lender, which is what I just talked about in terms of getting matched. If your financial institution is not participating in PPP, then you can either contact Louisiana Small Business Development Center, or you can find out which lender is participating or servicing PPP in your area. Also, you can see there's a tab for first draw PPP loans, and there's a tab for second draw PPP loans. Now, if you've already, as a business owner, if you've already received a first round of PPP loans, that does not mean that you are unable to access a second draw of PPP loans. However, the condition in terms of course, meeting other eligibility requirements is that you have utilized all of the funds from the first distribution of the PPP loans that you secured. If you have not utilized all of the funds from the first round of PPP funds that were allocated to your business, then you would not be able to tap into that second round. You must be able to utilize all of those funds from the first round. Now, in terms of identifying a loan, we'll click on the second draw of PPP loans, since that's what's being offered right now. I'll click on that. Okay, as you can see, move this over. As you can see, the notice exclusivity period for the very smallest businesses and other changes. Now, there's a 14-day period that's set aside exclusively for businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 20 employees, which means that they're trying to ensure that these businesses that qualify within this criteria of having 20 employees or less, that they are giving at least immediate attention. That window is from February 24th through March 9th. Does it mean after March 9th, if you have 20 employees or fewer, that you cannot apply for the second round of PPP? No, it just means that this period is reserved exclusively to try to ensure that business owners with employees 20 or fewer are at least acknowledged during this window. And of course, all applications already submitted to lenders before the start of this period will still be processed by SBA. Does not mean that if you submitted prior to this window that you will not be able to be approved or your application will not be processed. That is not what that means. Okay. Now, in terms of the maximum loan amount, for most borrowers, the maximum loan amount of a second draw PPP loan is 2.5 times the average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, but it cannot exceed $2 million, okay? For borrowers in the accommodation and food services sector, the maximum loan amount for a second draw PPP loan is 3.5 times the average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, of course, which is up to 2 million. So there's a little larger window, simply because in terms of the food industry, there's a greater chance that the employees may be larger, so they're increasing that capacity. Now, the qualifications, we talked about this earlier. I think Larry kind of touched on it a little bit when he was talking about the eligibility. Now, a borrower is generally eligible for a second draw PPP if they previously received a first draw PPP loan and will or has used the full amount that it was already authorized to utilize, has no more than 300 employees, and can demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts in terms of those particular quarters within 2019 and 2020. Now, I did mention earlier when Larry was on the line that was on the Zoom session was that you have to be able to demonstrate that you were financially impacted as a result of the pandemic. As Larry said, there's a greater probability that a lot of business owners will qualify for a PPP. There are a lot of instances where a lot of business owners were not able to get the first round of PPP simply because of a couple of reasons that we talked about earlier. Either they were paying employees in cash and there was no paper trail. Either there was no profit already, even prior to the pandemic. There was already, a deficit or a negative in terms of generating revenue, or it was some other fraudulent pieces of information that may have been submitted that the bank may have been able to detect when reviewing the application. So, typically, of course, if, those three areas, you fall into that situation, then of course that may impact you receiving PPP. But typically, you would qualify. Now, one thing that we try to advise our business owners and even the business owners or potential business owners that are thinking about starting up is that we ask you to register your business with the IRS, and we talked about that yesterday. Registering your business with the Internal Revenue Service, registering your business with the Louisiana Secretary of State. You have to be a legal entity. You have to be a legal entity to be able to tap into these resources, and you would have to have been in business prior to February 15th of 2020 to even qualify, one of the qualifications to even qualify for PPP. Now, we also asked a lot of our clients, do you have a business checking account? Sometimes we hear yes, sometimes we hear no. If the answer is no, we tell them all the time, you please get a business checking account. You do not want to commingle those funds with your personal checking account. There should be a clear separation and distinction between your personal checking account and your business checking account. Well, how do you get a business checking account? Well, you can take your paperwork that the IRS that the IRS has generated with your EIN, take that to the bank, as well as the articles that you will get once you file with the Louisiana Secretary of State. You will be given articles at that time. When you create an account through GoBiz and you actually register the business through GoBiz, which is the Louisiana Secretary of State, is synonymous. Once that has been approved, they have approved your business, you will then be given articles for that particular business. And you can retrieve those documents from your account that you generate through GoBiz. So you would take those pieces of information to a bank and request that you open a business checking account. We ask our clients all the time to do it. Some follow, some do not. As a result, we were able to grasp an idea of some of the clients that did not do as we've asked them to do, because we've gotten calls since the pandemic saying, Sonia, I couldn't get PPP, I couldn't get EIDL, I couldn't get EIDL, I couldn't get any funding. How come, SBA turned me down? And I'm like, did you, and I'm going over a list of things that could have possibly led to why you were denied. First question, did you get the business checking account? Did you establish a business checking account that we talked about? Well, no. I'm like, okay, so that's one reason, because SBA, they will not, especially for EIDL, they would not drop those funds. They would not deposit those funds in your personal account. The business name had to match the same business name that's on your application. So if it's not the same, then they would not disperse those funds into your account. So that was one issue that we determined in terms of why some of the business owners did not receive those funds. Now, there's a portion, a large portion of PPP that is forgivable. It is a forgivable loan. Of course, there's a certain criteria to qualify for forgiveness. The loan proceeds must cover payroll costs, most mortgage interest, rent, utility costs over the 8-week period of the duration of the loan. Okay, so as long as your PPP is covering your payroll costs, most mortgage interest, your rent, utility costs over the 8-week period, there's a high probability that the loan may be forgivable. Okay. One other caveat to that is that if you're saying that you have, for example, 20 employees, okay, so you have 20 employees, you met the eligibility criteria to receive PPP, and you receive those funds. You cannot receive those funds and go back and lay people off. If you do, it may result in that loan not being forgiven. So the whole purpose of it is to provide financial assistance and to circumvent you laying off employees. That's pretty much the central point of the PPP. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, for those that may not qualify and those loans are not forgiven, if you do not follow that criteria or you're using the funds that's exceeding the areas that I just mentioned, then you can get the loan basically deferred for 6 months from the date that the loan was approved. You may be able to get it deferred for 6 months before you actually start paying on it. But again, all of that information has to be discussed with that particular lending institution because they are pretty much the gatekeeper that's providing that service for you, but it's through SBA. Okay. And the program, of course, will be open to all eligible entities through March 31st of this year, 2021. So we're just going to go and just look at a few frequently asked questions for lenders and borrowers, just to kind of go over that. Okay. So there's about 22 pages. This may be a little time consuming, so I won't actually, of course, read 22 pages. But if you all have time, please go through this. They may actually address some questions and answer a few things that I did not talk about. Are nonprofits eligible to apply for PPP? The answer is yes. In a lot of cases, nonprofit organizations were able to tap into PPP. Okay, and do PPP loans cover paid sick leave? The answer is yes. PPP loans cover payroll costs. Payroll costs is inclusive of sick leave. When your employer provides sick leave, you are being paid for that time off because you're using a sick day. So technically that is still considered to be payroll. So that is a question on here. So, I don't know. Sometimes you may think of some questions later. So please visit the frequently asked questions. The FQAs may address some concerns that you may have that we haven't touched upon. Also, it covers employee vacation, parental, family, medical, sick leave. It covers that because, again, when you're taking time off from work, if you have that time available to you, then your employer is also paying you for that time. So of course, it would still consider to fall in that umbrella of time, of sick leave, which is still time, payroll. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? May lenders accept signatures from a single individual who is authorized to sign on behalf of the borrower? If you are an authorized signer, you have signing authority for that particular business, but you are not the business owner, but you have the authority. The bank has you listed, the business owner actually went to the bank and have you as an authorized signer. Yes, the borrower should, bear in mind that that owner is still responsible, but the authorized person may still sign on behalf of that owner. So again, when you, get a chance, please feel free to visit SBA's website. There's a variety, it's a slew of information at your disposal to provide some of the answers to some of your questions. Also, I think Daphne asked a question earlier about Biden's pending stimulus package right now. I don't know if some of you are aware, but I don't know, I think between midnight and 1 a.m. this morning, the House did pass President Biden's most recent coronavirus package. So right now, it will go to the Senate sometime within the upcoming week, hopefully. If there aren't any changes or items that need to be revised, whether or not it's something that needs to be changed, and the Senate is not going to approve it, of course, it has to be approved by a majority vote of the Senate. Assuming that happens, then it would then go to President Biden for signature, final approval and signature. And then those funds would be allocated at a time thereafter. As Larry stated, it's kind of hard to talk about what those requirements look like because it hasn't happened yet. So once it's approved, SBA will receive guidance. And then once SBA receives that guidance, then that guidance will be posted to their website. It'll trickle on down to the lenders and to the business owners, and then we'll be able to know what the requirements are. Now, in the proposed package that Biden, that's circulating now, Biden's proposed package, it is also inclusive of providing $7.25 billion to be allocated towards another round of PPP. So that's included in the pending package right now. Of course, we already know it includes another round of checks for those qualifying families of $1,400, as well as dependents of those families as well. So, just kind of tap into that. You can read there are other specifics in terms of economic aid being offered to state and local governments as well as schools. It's a very comprehensive package that's being proposed right now. So just, if you have time, just kind of review that information. You can find it on any national and or local news outlet. You can find exactly more specific information in terms of what's in the package, but I'm just giving you just a brief generalization in terms of business owners and what's in store for them should it be approved. Are there any questions about the PPP before we move forward?
There are no questions in the chat or on Facebook.
Okay. Okay. I didn't want to go too fast, and I wanted to allow questions while we were on that particular topic. Of course, if there are any additional questions about PPP, I'll be happy to answer those concerns or questions as best I can. But meanwhile, we will proceed and move on to some other topics. A couple of other things I wanted to talk about this evening is to go to the Louisiana Secretary of State's website and just kind of show you what that looks like. Okay, so. Okay, so this is the Louisiana Secretary of State's website. This is the website that I was talking about yesterday, which is www.sos.la.gov. Some of you, if you were on the session yesterday, you may remember my mentioning that if you were thinking about starting a business, it would be best to go to the Secretary of State's website and to peruse and see if that business name is being utilized. In the event that that business name that you're thinking about naming your business as, if that business name is in use, you will be unable to use that business name. So the question is, well, how do I even begin to search and look up that information to see if a business is in use? Real easy. You'll kind of hover over business services and you'll click on the second option, which states search for Louisiana business filings. You'll click on that tab and you can either search by the business name, or you can search if you so happen to know the charter number, which unless it's your business, I wouldn't expect you to know that. Or if you know the name of the business owner, you can type in the name of the business owner. But if there's, if you're thinking about a name, then you can type on the name of the entity. So, just for example, if you want to search X construction company, mind you, I'm making that up. I have no idea if this name exists. Of course, you have to click on that you're not a robot. I don't see any bicycles. Just trying to get through this part. And you'll have to verify, probably, you have to verify that each time to prove that you're not a robot. So I'm going to click on search and to see, well, there are some entities named X construction or associated with that name. So this is what populates. And mind you, I just made that up. I had no idea what would pop up, but they're showing you some of the businesses that's even associated with the letter X. We see Excalibur, X Erections Construction Company, LLC. There's a variety, maybe not necessarily called X Construction, but it still have the letter X in it. So this is what's populating. So that's how you would do a search. You would just go to that search component, and that's how you would basically navigate through it and see if that business is in existence. If it's not being utilized, then you would be able to use that business name. Okay. All right. So if you wanted to start a business, you would click on Start a Business. And this is only going to let me go so far in the process. So that's why we ask you if you need any assistance to contact the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, and we can help you. We can do a virtual session and kind of walk you through setting up your business. But you would have to scroll down, and you would look at the area where it says Visit GoBiz, and you would click on Visit GoBiz to get started. You would click on Visit GoBiz to get started. And in this area, this is the area where you would either sign in if you've already signed in before, you have an account, or you would create an account if you do not have one. This is how you begin registering your business. This is the process. You would have to first create an account if you don't have one already. So once you create an account, you basically would just click on Create an Account. And you would type in the email, confirm the same email that you typed in the first area, and establish a password and confirm the password that you just typed. Click on, of course, that you're not a robot, and agree to the terms and conditions. And then you would click on Create an Account. Once you click on Create an Account, you will receive a verification via email from the same email that you're using in this area. You receive an email from the Louisiana Secretary of State and or GoBiz, the same entity, verifying that you are indeed the person that just created an account through GoBiz. Once you receive that email asking you to verify that you did just create an account via GoBiz through the Louisiana Secretary of State, then you can begin registering the business, and you'll see a tab in that particular email allowing you to go further in terms of registering. So it's not going to allow me to actually create an account if I'd have to actually create a real one. I can't walk through a dummy one because it's going to ask specific information, so I can only go so far in it. But that is the process in terms of how to actually register the business. And again, I repeat again, the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, this is part of what we do. We assist businesses in terms of registering for that piece. Okay. Now, one other thing, I wanted to go to the Internal Revenue Service website. Hold on one second, people. So you'll go to www.irs.gov. Now, there's a lot of information on the website for the Internal Revenue Service. So in this particular case, you would click on, or you would actually type in obtain EIN on the website for the Internal Revenue Service. So, okay, so if you type in obtain EIN, this is what you'll see. So what you'll do is click on the first link, which is apply for an employer identification number, which is an EIN. So you'll click on that tab. You'll scroll down and you will apply online now. Because of the fact that this is the weekend and it's after hours, I can't. The site is not available right now because, as it's stating, we're accessing it outside of the hours of operation. The hours of operation are Mondays through Fridays, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But basically, it's the application is actually online. You're actually navigating through pages. And it takes about 5 minutes where you're just entering your actual business name, your name, your social, and it's going to generate an EIN. Now, if you're requesting that EIN, once you actually answer all the questions in terms of the type of business you're trying to set up, the industry, which is the type of business, the business name, your social, your address, that type of information. You have to answer some other questions. For example, are you a gambling entity? Are you selling alcohol, tobacco, or firearms? Those questions are on there as well. What type of business are you structuring? Once you answer all those questions, it will self-generate an EIN for you. So you'll have two options. The system, you'll see a populated message that will indicate whether or not you want that EIN mailed to you, or you can obtain it at that time. If you obtain it at that time, make certain that you save it and print it and put it in a secure location, because if you lose it, you'll have to contact the Internal Revenue Service to get that number. And right now, I'm sure they're pretty overwhelmed right now, especially now it's tax season. They're dealing with just typical issues that they would normally deal with. And they're also dealing with stimulus funds for those who have not received it, those who are, currently receiving it, who haven't gotten it yet, but are anticipating getting it. And they're also embarking upon another period where they may be administering another round, providing that this current pending stimulus bill is approved. So they're pretty overwhelmed right now. So typically when I assist my clients, I make certain that they save it as a PDF. It's going to come to you as a PDF file. I ask them to make certain that they save it. They also put it in a secure location. And, because if you ask for it to be mailed, they say, the IRS makes, it states 4 to 6 weeks. But, of course, we don't know what umbrella of time that they may be dealing with because of those circumstances that I just mentioned. So again, it is important to keep that number in a secure place, because you would take that paperwork as well to the bank, as I mentioned earlier, to open up that business checking account that I mentioned. So it's very imperative that you keep up with that paperwork. It's very important. But this would be the process. Again, if you have any reservations or any questions, or you're not sure what you're doing, do not proceed. Contact the Louisiana Small Business Development Center for further clarification if you're not sure about how to proceed once you actually start getting through these pages. We'll be happy to offer assistance. We don't want you, doing something, going to uncharted waters unless you're comfortable with what you're doing. Some business owners do it on their own. Some have questions and need assistance. That's what we're here for. We don't mind providing that assistance. And I did mention yesterday, if you're interested in receiving services, consultation services from the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, to contact our office, and we'll be happy to provide that assistance. We would, of course, have to send you a form, a 641 form. That 641 form, once you complete it, it allows us to provide consultation services to you. We do not charge a fee for providing those consultation services. Okay. Are there any questions about the Internal Revenue Service at this time before I move on? Okay.
We may move forward.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things I wanted to go over again and just kind of expound upon in terms of what was discussed yesterday. In terms of that filing for your business with the Louisiana Secretary of State, I just want to go back to that for a quick second. Because depending on the particular business structure, in terms of how you're setting up your business, whether or not it's an LLC or what have you, the prices would vary. For example, if it is an LLC, it would be $100 plus a $5 filing fee for the Louisiana Secretary of State. So just making certain that you're aware of that. So to get a complete comprehensive view of those pricing information, or the listing of the pricing information, you would log on to www.sos.la.gov. We're going back to this site because I want to make certain that understand that was a question. So I want to make certain I cover that. So you would hover over business services. You would click on file business documents. Okay. Once you click on File Business Documents, you would click on Get Forms and Fee Schedule. Okay. Once you do that, you just scroll down and you'll see a listing of the different categories of the business structures. So, for example, if you are registering the business, as I stated, for example, as an LLC, of course, once you register the business, it's typically it just depends on the traffic or the volume of business owners requesting approval from the Louisiana Secretary of State. So the turnaround time may vary, but typically it's about 48 hours maybe that you'll receive approval via email. So once you receive approval via email, you would log into your GoBiz account, and in your GoBiz account, you will be able to access your articles. Your articles of the organization are only given to you. It's only in your information. You can only access it in your profile. Once you are approved by the Louisiana Secretary of State, you'll be able to access that. Of course, it's, as I mentioned, $100 plus a $5 filing fee. If it's a partnership, it would be the same thing, $100 plus a $5 filing fee. Now, one thing I just want to mention about this, when you register your business, a lot of prospective business owners reserve the name. They don't actually register the business. Sometimes they'll reserve the name, which means you have a certain window of time that the name is being reserved, it's being held. So if you're reserving a name, that simply means that no one else can use that name. If it's a coincidence that you have a business name that you've come up with and someone else out there in the public is thinking about starting a business and they think of the same business name you think of, if you reserve it, they can't use it. Okay. However, if you reserve it, you're only reserving it for a certain length of time. It's $25 to reserve the name. My opinion about that is that you can take that same $25 and put it towards actually registering the business, which means once you register the business, you're not reserving it. You actually have secured that name as the name of your business. So that's just something to think about. It's just a matter of opinion. Some people, some business owners reserve the name, but in my opinion, you can use that same $25 towards actually establishing the name for that business. Now, once you receive the articles, once the Louisiana Secretary of State approves your business filing, again, as I mentioned, you will be giving articles, okay? Those articles are to be taken to the bank along with your EIN, and you can utilize that information, or the bank can utilize that information to set up a business checking account. It is so important to have that business checking account because it's an accounting nightmare when business owners commingle funds. It is highly advised that you do not commingle funds. Again, it's an accounting nightmare. We've had some business owners to ask the question, if people are buying my products or services, what if they're paying me technically in cash? What do I do? And I asked them, well, first of all, if they're paying you, do you have some type of? Are they paying you through an app? There's PayPal, there's Cash App. There's a lot of different apps out there that you can utilize. Of course, if you have any of those apps where a client or customer can pay you for a product or service, those apps are linked to an account. So if you're linking that payment app to your business checking account, that's fine, because that is still creating a paper trail, because that is also that information. All of those transactions will be clearly indicated on your statement every month. So when the bank sends you a statement, whether or not it's through mail or whether or not they're sending you an electronic statement, those transactions are clearly listed on those bank statements. So as long as you're using some type of a payment app, and it's linked to your business checking account, that's fine. That's still considered a paper trail. So the problem is that when business owners are working with cash and there's no paper trail, there's no documentation in terms of, what are you selling? What did you buy? And there's no paper trail. How do we have proof? How do we know that you actually received a certain amount for a product or service? How do we know that you've paid a certain amount for a product or service? So it is a very good paper trail to do that. Okay, so that's just the Louisiana Secretary of State's website. And I just want to show you how to access that fee schedule. It just depends on how you're structuring your business. That's up to the individual. And again, Louisiana Small Business Development Center does not make the determination for you in terms of, which entity to use, but we do try to assist you in that area in terms of how to go about doing it. Okay. Now, one other, I just kind of wanted to do a recap of last night. And I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Wanted to go back to this page in particular. And of course, this is the sections that I'm going over and then I'm skipping is the business plan component. And for those of you that weren't able to log in yesterday, I went over the information in terms of how to properly set up your business plan and the components of a business plan. And also the fact that Louisiana Small Business Development Center will send you a sample business plan template. And that template will be sent in a Word document for those who are interested in receiving our services. And within that Word document, you'll be able to actually go in that Word document and be able to type and edit and conform that rough draft business plan to suit the structure of your business or how your business is formed. Now, the legal forms of ownership, since we were on the subject of talking about the Louisiana Secretary of State and just basically how to access that portal and how to create an account through gobiz.com, I just wanted to review the different forms of legal structures for your business. Now, in regards to a sole proprietorship, of course, there is a single owner. There is no separate tax return. The owner is fully liable. Partnerships, there's more than one owner. General and limited liability, both owners are liable. And of course, there are corporations which are typically owned and governed by shareholders, board of directors, and there's a lower risk of audits by the government, whether or not it's city, state, local, or federal government being the Internal Revenue Service. LLC is very commonly referenced. Business owners have limited personal liability, and there's a benefit of a pass-through taxation. And we'll look at that in a minute when we start talking about forms that the IRS have accessible on their website. Also, nonprofit corporations and or organizations are typically tax exempt organizations, pretty much known as charitable non-governmental organizations. Organizations and or corporate entities can be formed, fulfilling a mission to improve the common good of society rather than to acquire and distribute profits. So their end game, their general end game is not to generate profits. They are nonprofits. Typically, they provide social services to the communities. Also, a DBA is considered to be doing business as, which means you can have a business structure set up. You can also have another business that can fall under the umbrella of that business that you've actually established. So this is the slide that I wanted to just kind of review from yesterday. Now, these are the different entities in terms of how to set up the structure of your business, whether or not it's a sole proprietor. And of course, we're looking at the tax forms because that's typically the most referenced question we have from our clients is, well, what tax form do I use? So of course, we typically ask that of course, you should always file your business taxes and your personal tax returns. But we ask you to make certain that you get with an accountant or a CPA, because this is an area that they're most proficient in because they do this all the time. So as an occupational hazard, they pretty much will be able to tell you which form. So, but just so you'll know when you're walking in the door, you'll know which form to use. For sole proprietor, you're using a Schedule C of the 1040 form. So as a sole proprietor, you're filing your own personal tax return, but you're also utilizing the Schedule C form in addition to the 1040 form, okay? The single person LLC, again, you're still using a Schedule C of the form 1040, okay? The only difference is that with the LLC, there may be multiple owners. It just depends on that particular business owner, but there may be multiple business owners. Also, the difference is that it's limited by some state laws. Some state laws may not recognize another LLC, which means if you're doing business in Louisiana as an LLC, it's possible that if you go to another state, they may not recognize that particular business. So it's possible that you may have to set up that business with that other state's Secretary of State. So it just depends on what state we're talking about. Every state has a different criteria. So it really would just depend. Also, a partnership. There is a separate entity form, which is a 1065. Liability, it's unlimited. And when we talk about liability, we're talking about whether or not an entity chooses to seek some type of legal, suing you, or if there's a legal ramification in terms of an instance where you're liable for some type of discrepancy. LLC, there's a separate entity. It will default to the 1065. Also, the 1120 and 1120S is used. Again, it's limited by state laws in some states. Some states may not recognize another state's LLC. This is the same component that we're talking about, except a more generalized structure of an LLC where there is not a single person and there's more than one owner. Then of course, those other forms are needed, which is the 1065 by default, the 1120 and the 1120S, because there are multiple owners under that LLC. Also, the S corporation is limited in all states. And of course, the form that would be used would be an 1120S. The status requires the form of a 2553. And it has to be timely filed and accepted by the IRS. So those dates must be adhered to if you're filing as an S Corp. And that would be listed on the website of the Internal Revenue Service as well. If it's a C corporation, you would be utilizing the form 1120. So again, your tax accountant or CPA would be very proficient in terms of talking about expounding upon the benefits. The benefits, of course, or the caveats would depend on that particular business, the structure, how it's set up, employees, just a number of things, profits, losses, just a number of things would attribute to what those refunds, if any, would look like. Okay. And also, we had Larry Dentz on the line. He was talking about Hope Credit Union, and they are a lending institution. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of this piece is the 5 C's of credit. And I'm talking about this section again because this is, and Larry mentioned this as well, we see this all the time. We see this every day, that there's so many issues that small business owners face in terms of being able to access funds. Having access to capital is one of the major drawbacks, one of the major negative impacts that small business owners face. They're able to start the business, but they can't really successfully take it to the level that they want to take it to because they don't have access to capital. So that is one of the major issues that small businesses face. Now, in terms of the lending institutions, what are they looking for? Well, they're looking for a number of things, and lenders aren't always the same. Some lending institutions may be a little bit more liberal, depending on the industry, depending on the market. There are a lot of circumstances that may impact, what they're looking for. But in particular, a lot of banks look at the 5 C's of credit. It's almost like, it's almost like the Bible, their credit Bible that they go by. They look at the character of the borrower. What does that mean? The character is representative of your credit report. Does the credit report define you as a person? No, but that's the only criteria that the bank has to go by because they don't know who you are. They can only go on your history, your credit history. And that's a clear demonstration to the bank or the lending institution of how you were able to pay entities that you owed. Were you on time? What was the lifeline or life term of the loan that you may have secured, whether or not it's a car, whether or not it's a personal loan, credit cards, your mortgage, whatever the case may be, they can see if you were on time. And, that's representative of the character in terms of the bank's perspective. Also, capital invested in the venture by the borrower. So banks do not typically finance a loan at 100%. They want to see that you at least have 20% or more vested interest in that particular loan that you're going to secure. So just to reiterate from yesterday, what does that mean in terms of how do I know how much I need to borrow? Well, again, that's why that business plan is so imperative that you complete, because the business plan is going to tell you how much you need to borrow from the bank. You cannot go to a lender in the blind and just calling out a number. You have to have documentation, supportive documentation to substantiate what you're asking for. If you're asking for $50,000, if you're asking for $25,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever the case may be, show them proof that you've done the research. You know that you need this amount, and this is why. This is why I need it. I'm expanding my business. This is why I need it. I'm starting my business. This is why I need it. Whatever the case may be, your business plan should be reflective of what you're saying. Capacity of the borrower to repay the loan. So they want to know your capacity. What is your ability to pay back the loan? They want to know that you're not asking for something that is nearly impossible for you to pay back. So they need to be able to know that you will be able to pay the loan back. Now, capacity to borrow the loan for startup businesses, they can typically utilize the 3 to 5 year financial projections that I mentioned yesterday. The Louisiana Small Business Development Center can assist you with establishing those financial projections. We can help you with a 3 to 5 year projection plan. Now, within the 3 to 5 year projection plan, we talk about, and we have documented the profits. What are your products and services? How much are you going to charge for your products and services? We typically will look at that. We'll look at the projected volume of clients that you anticipate for that month, and then we're able to determine what the projected profit should be for that month. Now, of course, there are a lot of industries that may be seasonal. For example, if you're a lawn care service business owner, then we know that's really seasonal. During the spring, during the summer is the height of lawn care services in terms of them being extremely profitable. That's the height. When we start entering the fall, it starts dwindling. During the winter, it's almost, unless you just want something in terms of landscaping, that's something different, but just actually like cutting like mowing the lawn, cutting your grass, it typically dwindles in the fall. So a lot of work depending on the industry, may be seasonal. So it just depends on the industry. The banks will look at all of that. All of that will play a role. Also, collateral available to secure the loan. In regards to collateral, again, collateral is something that you outright own. You are not renting, you are not leasing, you outright own it. That is considered to be collateral. It just depends. The banks, depending on the lending institution, they may ask you for a form of collateral. They may not ask that question, but don't be surprised if it comes up, because there have been cases where business owners were asked, to provide at least collateral to secure the loan, and pretty much the bank just wants security to know that if you do not generate any profits, that they have security to know that they'll be able to get their money back. So that's the purpose of providing that collateral if it's asked. Conditions of the industry and economy. So the conditions of the particular industry that you're starting your business will determine whether or not you're eligible to receive that particular loan amount that you're asking. The economy, the conditions of the economy makes a difference. For example, right now in President Biden's proposed package, there's also mention of a rescue for the airline industry. The airline industry was affected and impacted as a result of the pandemic, obviously. So that's the point of the stimulus package, commonly referred to as relief. It's designed to provide relief for taxpayers and or businesses. So as I mentioned, the example about the industry, the airlines were impacted. So President Biden and President Biden's team found it imperative to include the airline industry, because at one point people weren't, flying, whether or not it was due to states being restricted, due to being in certain phases, whether or not people just didn't feel comfortable as some of the states ended up phasing out of the phases. There were a lot of people that just weren't going anywhere. People weren't traveling. People weren't even going over to people's houses. So, we weren't utilizing as much gas. If you notice, depending on who you have insurance with, and I'm talking about just basic car insurance. If you notice, some of you probably received a rebate. That rebate may have been in a form of a credit for the subsequent month, but depending on who your insurance provider was or is, you may have received a rebate. That's because people weren't going anywhere. And I think that was during the summer, late spring or summer of 2020. Places like, I think Allstate and State Farm, I think Progressive may have been one of them, but they provided rebates for insurance holders of those particular, who had that particular coverage, because people weren't going anywhere. They were paying the same amount of coverage, but weren't utilizing, they weren't posing as a greater risk because their vehicles were parked. They weren't going anywhere. So there was a less probability of getting into an accident. I mean, of course, you have natural disasters, but that's why I said the probability was lowered, because a lot of people were not mobile. So again, the industry and the economy makes a significant difference in terms of your ability to secure the loan. Okay. And of course, I mentioned yesterday about the financial information for startups. A personal financial statement is required for any business owner with 20% or more vested ownership in the business. For existing businesses, a personal financial statement of any owner with 20% or more vested interest in the business, in addition to previously filed tax returns, would be utilized for existing businesses. So, this is very imperative as well, to file your tax returns. Now, we do understand that due to the pandemic, a lot of business owners and even for your own personal tax returns, a lot of people and business owners were not able to file those tax returns for 2019 because, of course, the pandemic officially, we were officially impacted at the beginning around February of 2020. So right now we're seeing people file their business and personal tax returns for the year 2020 as well as 2019 if they hadn't already filed it. So we're starting to see that. So make certain that you keep track and keep those in a secure location because those will definitely, come up from time to time. Okay. And of course, we talked about the key factors of a loan, the loan amount. Only borrow what you need to borrow. Only borrow what you need. The business plan should dictate the amount that you need to borrow. As tempting as it may appear to be, this is not the time to take that dream vacation, even after we're out of the woods from the pandemic. It's not the time to take that dream vacation because guess what? The date of that loan will be due very fast. And you do not want to exhaust those funds on areas that was not clearly listed in your business plan because you're going to be in dire straits if you run through that money and you didn't do any of the things that you needed to do with those proceeds that was stated in your business plan. Now, understanding the difference between types of interest rates. Well, a fixed rate, of course, means that whatever percentage it's set at, it stays. It will not change. A variable rate will change. It will fluctuate. Maturity date, of course, is the length of the loan. It's the term or length of the loan. Okay, so just making certain that I'm reviewing that because, that's very important. And we have a lot of business owners, sometimes they'll ask us and they'll say, when is my loan due? And I'm like, where's your paperwork? I don't know. What does your paperwork say? Because typically your lender will review all of that information with you and they'll make certain that you understand, the date, when that loan is due, making certain that there's clear understanding. But once you sign those loan documents, it's already implied that you understand the terms and conditions because you signed it. So please make certain that you fully understand the terms and conditions of your loan because whenever the date is scheduled, whenever it's due, it's due. So please make certain that you have a clear understanding of the terms and conditions. And again, this is an area that I wanted to review as well in terms of starting that small business. Developing a well thought out business plan is so important. It is so imperative. Determining the business structure, whether or not it's a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporation, an LLC, or a nonprofit. Registering that business with the Louisiana Secretary of State. And you can access that by logging on to sos.la.gov, which is the site that I logged on to that site maybe twice this evening to show you a few things. And also to actually create an account, you would go to gobiz.com. Even if you go to www.sos.la.gov, if you click on start a business, as I showed you earlier, if you scroll down, it's going to still revert back to gobiz.com. So either way, it's going to revert back to gobiz.com, which will allow you to either log into your account if you've already created an account, or it will allow you to create an account if you don't already have one. Also, logging on to irs.gov, that will allow you the opportunity to obtain an EIN, and I showed you that website. We weren't able to tap into it because the portal is only open Mondays to Fridays, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, registering with state entities, such as the Louisiana Secretary of State, which is what we mentioned, the Louisiana Department of Revenue, if you need to get supplemental information in regards to taxation and what does that look like for your business. The Louisiana Department of Revenue would be able to expound upon that and set up a sales tax account or help you set up a sales tax account if your business needs to do that. Louisiana Workforce Commission, you would be able to tap into that entity as well. Also, obtaining specific licenses, whether or not it's an occupational license. An occupational license is typically generated through that. In Louisiana, of course, we have parishes. So that parish government would be able to issue that occupational license. The cost of an occupational license will vary based on the parish that you're in. Registering with the city or parish for that occupational license, whether or not it's East Baton Rouge Parish, that would be the municipal, building downtown in the governmental building, which is on St. Louis. We would be able to contact them as well. Also, the Louisiana Department of Revenue on the city side is located in that particular area as well. Also, you can address any questions in terms of satisfying any tax requirements. The Louisiana Department of Revenue would be able to answer those questions as well. If you've never filed, you're a business owner and you've never filed, and you're probably saying, well, Sonia, I didn't have any profits, so I didn't file. Okay, so if you didn't have any profits, you should still file, even if it's zero. If you didn't generate any profits, you should still file, because it's acknowledging the fact that you did not generate any profits. You're saying that you didn't generate any profits, but the Internal Revenue Service does not know you didn't generate any profits. The Louisiana Department of Revenue, they won't know if you generated any profits. So if you haven't, you should still file your tax returns. That's a clear indication that you did not have any profits, or you have generated profits. This is what that number looks like. So you should still file your tax returns. Also, securing insurance for your business. So a lot of business owners, it's not uncommon that we hear that they do not have business insurance. That's it would be a big mistake to not have business insurance, because if something goes wrong, then you don't want to be liable. That's what you would want to pay insurance for. It's almost as synonymous as you having car insurance. You don't have car insurance for you as a driver. You have car insurance because of the other drivers. So, it's almost, you're paying for the what if. If something happens and, your car, is wrecked, or, God forbid something happens, that's what you pay insurance for. So, that's why having insurance for your vehicle is important. To have insurance for your business. General liability is basically the bare minimum. You can also access business interruption insurance. That's important as well. Business interruption insurance, people did not see, although, we live in Louisiana, we have been impacted by numerous hurricanes, more than we care to even count. But it's more so during the pandemic. We've seen proof that, a lot of businesses have come to a complete halt because of the pandemic. So business interruption insurance is just that you're paying insurance in the event that your business is interrupted. The products and services, and you being able to provide those products and services, have been interrupted as a result of a pandemic, a natural disaster, whatever the case may be. It's not on this slide, but I also, as I stated yesterday, suggest that you obtain flood insurance. Flood insurance is important as well, because again, general liability will not cover flood insurance. So that's important as well. Also, workers' compensation is important too. And of course, certifications, depending on what type of industry you're in for the business, what type of industry you may have for the business, rather. Different certifications may be applicable depending on that particular industry. For example, if you are selling anything for human consumption, whether or not, even if it's a snowball stand, it can be a snowball stand, it can be a restaurant. It's still considered human consumption, which means you would need a ServSafe certification. That's required. That is a requirement. So you would need that particular certification. So the industry, the type of certification is contingent upon the type of industry your business may fall under. So that makes a big difference as well. And of course, this is our website, www.lsbdr.org. bdc.org. And I want to go back to the beginning of the slide so you can access our contact information. This is our contact information and the address of our office. Right now, we do ask that you call our office so we can kind of reduce the physical volume of people coming in, of course, due to the pandemic. The address is 616 Harding Boulevard, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70807. Our phone number is area code 225-771-2891. We are Louisiana Small Business Development Center, and we are housed at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, should you call our office, again, the person answering the line may ask you, did you attend the Starting and Financing Small Business class or session? And the answer to that would be yes, you have attended. This is synonymous with that particular session. So this would definitely suffice. So you would tell them, yes, I need to speak with the counselor to proceed. So in turn, you will be emailed the 641 form that I mentioned. And that 641 form, you will be asked to complete that form. You'd have to scan and email it back to our office. And that form would be given to a consultant. If you're requesting a particular consultant, whether or not it's myself or, we have other consultants that assist in terms of professional service, and they would be able to provide assistance as well. But if, it's up to you if you would like me or anyone, regardless, we would be able to serve whatever your needs are and your business initiatives. So we would ask that you complete that form, make certain that you sign section 13 of that form, email it back to, scan and email it back to our office, and it would be given to a consultant. And in turn, the consultant would contact you to schedule an appointment, whether or not it's in person or what have you. And you would begin to talk about what's going on with your business in terms of an individual basis. What's going on with your
Ms. Wilson?
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
a question in the chat.
Sure.
The question is, how important is it to check out the lender before deciding to borrow from them? That is, interest rates charged, fixed versus variable loan interest, time and lending business, rating by the BBB, and other rating entities. What should you look for?
Well, all of those are very good areas that you should be looking at, all of them. Of course, now the terms and the percentage rate. Some banks may say, well, we have loans and our loans are serviced at 5% or as low as 3%. That may be true. However, when they run your credit, it's a high possibility that you may not qualify for that 3% loan that you saw on their big banner that was advertised outside of their building. So again, that falls under the category of the terms and conditions that I mentioned earlier about the loan. The terms and conditions are contingent upon that individual. It's all on the individualized basis. That's like when you see these commercials for, cars and you may see, come on down to such and such dealership. We have vehicles and we can get you in one today at 0%. Yeah, that's true if you qualify. So when they run your credit report, that's going to determine exactly what you're qualified for at what rate. Now, as a business owner, should you do your homework, find out how long has this bank been in existence? What other packages or loan packages, what other products does that particular bank offer? Of course, you should do your research. It is your obligation to do that research and find out. But what you don't want is to talk to a lender. They actually pull your credit, okay? They actually run your credit report and they say, okay, you know what? Did you know you had this on your credit report? Because we see something from 4 years ago that's outstanding and were you aware that this was on here? Please know what's on your credit report. As I mentioned yesterday, you're allowed one complimentary credit report per year from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. you are able to obtain a complimentary copy of those credit reports annually. Now, some of us have Credit Karma. Credit Karma, you're not impacted, which means you can check your credit score. It gives you an on or about average what your credit score may be at that time. And you can also see what's on your credit report. The 3 reporting agencies that I just mentioned typically will report that information to Credit Karma. So they're able to display that information as well. So you're able to get a very good idea of what's on your credit report. So that's why I suggest that, if you're interested in getting a loan at some point, please know on or about what your credit score is. Please know what's on your credit report. All of that will make a difference in terms of competitive rates that you may be offered in terms of interest rates.
Thank you for that. We have 2 more questions. The next question is, how many years of tax returns should be maintained to present to a lender or as a good business practice?
I would say anywhere between 3 to 5, 3 to 5, years of previous or prior years tax returns. But in my opinion, I would never discard any tax returns, even if I have physical tax returns from 5 years ago as a business owner. I may decide to transfer that information where I may not have it physically, but I have it, accessed or saved somewhere where I can access it in some type of database where I can retrieve it. I would have it saved in a secured electronic location so that I can, easily and accessibly retrieve that documentation. But at least a minimum of 3 to 5 years tax returns. But I would still never discard any tax returns at all.
Thank you. And at what point should a sole proprietor transition to LLC or S Corp if they are a consultant?
Well, there is no particular time frame per se. That question would probably be best addressed to your your accountant or your CPA. There is no best time. It's really difficult to answer that question because it depends on the business. It depends on how that business is structured. It depends on your profits and losses. It depends on what's more feasible in terms of what your business looks like. There is no set window in terms of transitioning over. It just really depends on what you're trying to do. If your business is if it's not very profitable, a tax accountant may advise you to conform to an LLC. There are a lot of variables. It depends on if you're an LLC, are you the sole owner? Are there multiple owners? There are a lot of different variables. So it is very difficult to answer that question without knowing specifics. Every case scenario is very different because it depends on the business, how the business is structured, the industry, profits and losses, what's going out, what's coming in. There are a lot of different variables to consider in terms of answering that question. So I think whenever you're filing your tax returns, your accountant or CPA would be able to look at the numbers on paper and be able to answer that question in terms of transitioning.
Thank you. And what other services does the center offer?
So Louisiana Small Business Development Center, there are small business development centers all across the United States, including the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. We're housed all over the United States, including United States territories. However, we have LSBDCs here in Louisiana. We have about 12 to 13 sites, and we provide assistance with establishing your business plan. We don't write it for you, but we assist with helping you develop it. We assist you with generating your 3 to 5 year financial projections. We assist you in getting your loan package together. If you've identified a particular lender that you want to go through in terms of securing a loan and or a line of credit, or maybe you don't know who to contact. So we have a list of references from financial and or commercial lending or banking institutions that we can refer you to that would be happy to work with you. We also, some of our partners and resource partners that provide financial funding to the Louisiana Small Business Development Center is SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, as well as Louisiana Economic Development. And as well as Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So we do have a lot of mechanisms that we do receive resources from. We also offer a variety of training classes. A lot of them are, of course, virtual because of the pandemic. But if you would like to access some of those sessions and find out specifically what is being offered, I invite you to visit our website at www.lsbdc.org. When you click on trainings, you'll see a listing of trainings throughout the duration of 2021. We do update those trainings periodically throughout the year, but we do have them throughout 2021. So you can feel free to keep checking that site and even checking at your leisure as time goes on, as we do update it periodically.
Okay, another question. Do you work in conjunction with the law clinic at SU to assist those needing legal guidance in opening or protecting their business interests?
So next door to the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, I don't know how many of you all that's on the session right now have had the opportunity to either visit the center or at least pass by the center. It's where the old bookstore used to be located and the post office some years ago. And right next to the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, it's kind of like a little arch. And right next to us is the Innovation Center. So within the Innovation Center is a branch of the law clinic, and they do provide services to our business owners, our clients. They assist with patents and trademarks in terms of filing those for your business. So we do have a very good collaborative partnership with the law clinic. We also are expanding, we're working on expanding the scope of our legal parameters. So we'll be able to provide services to even more of our small business owners. So yes, we do work very collaboratively with Southern University's law clinic.
Thank you so much. There are currently no additional questions in the chat or on Facebook.
Okay, so again, I would like to reiterate, please feel free to contact our office, visit our website. Should you need assistance with applying for PPP, you have any questions, follow-up questions about that, of course, everyone calls it PPP, but it's the Payroll Protection Program that is being administered by the Small Business Administration, commonly referred to as SBA. There are lending institutions that are qualified to provide those financial services to our small business owners. Not every lending institution is able to provide PPP, but some are qualified and are able and are providing PPP opportunities for small business owners. But if you have any other questions or you need assistance in gathering information, you're not sure what that should look like, do not hesitate to contact our office. As Larry mentioned, and I think I may have mentioned earlier, of course, you would need, proof that you've paid payroll to your employees. You'd have to have documented proof that you've experienced at least a minimum of a 25% reduction in revenue as a result of the pandemic. And of course, your tax returns will be able to reflect that. As Larry mentioned, even if you haven't filed your tax returns, you should have at least a completed return to present to a lender, and they would make that determination in terms of that documentation would suffice. But by all means, please feel free to contact the center for additional questions or follow-up.
Thank you. There are no questions in the chat.
Okay. Again, I would like to thank the Baton Rouge Sigma chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for allowing me the opportunity to share with you some of the services that we offer, as well as providing. Hopefully, I provided a little bit more insight in terms of the expectations, the process of actually starting your business, the process and the criteria that some of the lending institutions look for in terms of providing financial assistance, whether or not it's a loan or a line of credit, or whether or not we're talking about PPP or what have you. Basically those funding opportunities. I hope I was able to expound on that and answer at least, pretty much the majority of your questions.
All right, Sarah Daphne or Sarah Carletta?
Thank you so much, Ms. Wilson, for this great presentation. Last night was wonderful, and so was tonight. Participants, we have an online survey or evaluation. If you would go into the chat and do that for us, we would really appreciate it. We welcome your feedback, and it is needed to help us prepare for future events as well regarding generational wealth, if there are other sessions that you are interested in. Also, just to touch bases with you again and say, this is something that is so needed in our communities, and it is very important that we do our best to try and educate the community, but more so our children, about generational wealth and financial literacy. Again, we thank you very much for participating. Please do fill out the evaluation that is in the chat, and have a wonderful evening, and stay tuned. Check our pages, check our Facebook page, check Instagram, and look for other sessions that will be coming up. And now I would like for us to have a word from our president, Shai Joseph Franklin.
Good evening, everyone, and I will not keep you long, but as president, I just want to say thank you all for joining us this weekend as we have presented this information to you. Thank you so much, Ms. Wilson, for being here and sharing all of what has been shared, and I think it has reached the masses that have decided to join us. And just a little bit of information, I was looking at some of our analytics. I looked back on our Facebook page, and we've already had close to 250 views of that presentation. And as it was of last night, the same will be of tonight. It will be available on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube page to go back and use as a reference. So please utilize that information as you move forward, and possibly reach out to Ms. Wilson through the Louisiana Small Business Development Center for any questions. I just want to say thank you to the members of the Economic Development Committee, Sarah Daphne and Sarah Francis, for being able to be the leaders of this committee and put this information out forward. It is the Generational Wealth Series with, as she said, more to come. I'm not going to keep you any longer than this. Thank you for sharing your Friday and Saturday evening, and good luck with all of your ventures in the future, and look for more to come from us. Thank you and have a great evening. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, and hats off to the Economic Development team, Carletta, and Ms. Francis. We appreciate you and everyone who helped put out the word and get everything moving. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. Good night on Facebook. Good night on YouTube. Have a great evening.
Good night, Shai.
Good night, you all. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.